Okay, so welcome to showcase number 85. We're going to be talking about a couple of different things today, so I'm going to try to hurry this up real quick, this intro. We do have around 14-ish minutes of content to show off. It's not necessarily all art content. That's actually going to be next showcase. I ordered a ton of new objects and stuff to show off just in general. I also got some of the tile sets revised that I couldn't show off last showcase. So today's going to be a little bit of an intermission, but I focused on getting stuff that I thought you guys would like anyway. So quote colors are a thing. I was inspired by what I saw with Artania 3, what they're doing, and Pope asked me a long time ago if I would do something like that, and I thought, you know, it'd be a little bit complicated, but whatever. Turns out it took like 30-40 minutes or so. It was kind of a side project, and I just got it done, you know, right before the showcase, so I figured why not show it off. I think that you guys would enjoy that. And then after that, we have some furnace stuff that I've been working on basically the entire week, or at least for a couple days now. And I think that you guys will really enjoy that as well. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. It's pretty, not quote-unquote deep, but complicated. So if anything doesn't go, you know, smoothly, feel free to always clarify with me. I'd be happy to explain either in my DMs or in the Discord. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so once again, we're going to be doing a kind of hands-on clip. As per usual, this is just because I feel like it requires a little bit more complexity and a little bit more in-depth thought as well. I can't really go over it after the fact as easily as I can with some of the other stuff like tile sets and that kind of thing. So I'm, again, just going to jump right into this to take as little time as possible since the coin thing kind of ran over my head a little bit. We now have quote colors. So this was something that I realized would not be that hard to do. Pope has been talking to me about it for a little while now, or he didn't really remind me. But I figured, whatever, you know, what the hell, might as well. So these are pretty robust. I did them in about 30 minutes or so. It wasn't too difficult, but I did add quite a bit after that 30 minutes. So I added a bunch of functionality just to make them a little bit more friendly, I suppose you could say, especially in the cases of, you know, where you might screw up and miss a quotation mark. Now it kind of handles that, so you don't have to worry as much about making sure you have every quotation mark where you need one. So one thing to note here is that we can use this menu here if we want to. It saved some of the letters here, but this is still kind of a work in progress. As you can see, it's off center, so it's not exactly the most robust thing in the world, in, you know, as the quote coloring is, I guess. Whatever the case, I am going to instead take a look at the /rp command. So I mentioned in a previous showcase all of the different commands I've added. I revamped all of the stuff relating to chat commands, so all of that is way easier to handle now, which also means it's way easier to implement actual commands. It's literally as simple as typing a single line of code. I can add a command. So /rp, /emote, and /postrp all work and function as you might expect them to. This obviously doesn't work as well for multiple lines, so it's still better to be using the regular RP interface, but just because I feel like it's a little bit less intrusive, we'll be using that method of posting RPs for this showcase. But they're the same function, so they would work the other way too. Whatever the case, I'm going to go ahead and show you the default here. So you can see up here, first of all, my name is undefined. So that's something that's been true in all of these showcases. Because I'm offline, I have no name. It pulls my name from my account. So because I'm offline, there's no account file to pull from. So pretty straightforward, I think. But whatever the case, as you can see, it properly highlights the quote with a default font color. By default, this is white. The default RP color now is pretty dark. I think it needs to be a little bit darker so that it contrasts the background a little bit more, but whatever the case, once you, let's try emote this time, just to show you guys that it works. You can also screw this up, like I said. So if we were to say test here and then put another test and put another one at the end, or let's put it in front so you can see it doesn't capture it, you can see that it ignores this quotation mark up here. So you don't have to worry about it, you know, highlighting the entire chat, which would be very stupid of me, or which would be less stupid of me having it just highlight the name. That would be kind of annoying too. So both of those things are not possibilities. And more importantly, if I can go ahead and grab real quick a example color. So I think I have one saved up here. Just take a second real quick. But whatever the case, you can now change the color to whatever you want. So let me type set quote color. Just /quote color works as well, but for this case I want to show off the full function, and we'll be using B9AA9A. It's a nice tan color. So you can see it previews it for you, so you can see what it looks like on the background. and it notifies you, of course, that you have changed it. And then if you were to say RP and then do the same exact thing again, I can do the exact same test again as well to make sure that this works. Yep. So everything works as you would expect it to. And if you want to set this back again, you can just type default quote color and, or I believe set default quote color. And after that, we should be good. Okay, no, so I was mistaken. It sets it to whatever your first chosen font color is. I know that's a little bit misleading. That'll just be something I change in the future, but whatever the case, I think that you get the idea. Currently, this doesn't save to file, so it doesn't yet save these config options. That's going to be something I do in the future, just to save, you know, screen shake options, font color options, etc., etc. So again, for right now, it doesn't save to file, but again, in the future, we're going to have an entire file dedicated solely to stuff like that. So just a brief preview, a taste of stuff to come. I wanted to do this real quick and get it out of the way just because I saw a couple other things and figured, you know, what the hell, pretty quick, just hammer it out and, you know, show it to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I think that's kind of a cool quality of life feature that a lot of people have been asking for. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the showcase. Alright, so we're going to spend some time looking at the new furnace mechanics, primarily revitalized things, but I also wanted to tell you guys a little bit about how it's going to work in the future and how it's going to work right now, in fact. It's all new stuff for the most part. I've basically redone from the ground up everything that we had done before, or I had done before, relating to anything even similar to furnaces, because if you recall, or if you guys were even around back then, that was when everything was still single player. I hadn't actually developed any of the multiplayer functionality, which in and of itself kind of required a redesign of the entire game. So naturally, in order to get furnaces up and running again, I had to basically redesign them, as I said. So again, kind of complex things that we're going to be going over this manually or real time. Whatever the case, not a big deal. I'm going to quickly go ahead and gather up some resources here. So first I'm going to grab gold over there, coal here, cobalt, iron. You are going to notice there is a new resource, or two new resources, I suppose, now that I think about it. There's meteoric clay, and then there's also going to be silver. Silver is rarer than gold. I know a lot of people will probably get on me about that, but, you know, fantasy game, whatever, right? While I do this, and while I hopefully find some silver, not that I can even show anything with it, but whatever the case, I wanted to explain a little bit of how this alloy system works, if you guys weren't aware, and if you guys didn't watch the showcase way back when. And as a side note here, I also lowered the geode drop rate by a ton. Previously it was 75% chance every time a new ore node spawned, it would drop a geode. Now it is, I believe, 5% or 2% or something like that, so it's much, much rarer. You're a lot less likely to stumble into that kind of stuff. And I don't know particularly if what I showed off before was capable of removing from your inventory, but now it'll also delete the ore from your inventory once you're done. So we're just going to quickly gather this stuff up, and then I'll move over to the side so we can see this furnace in action. So to explain this real quick to you guys that weren't here originally and didn't see the initial process of the furnace, essentially this is going to be something for every craft. So I'll say that first off, it's not just for blacksmiths. Every single craft is going to make use of alloys, and the term alloys in Verdict is going to refer to any ingot. So iron, for instance, is going to be 3 iron ore that will smelt into an iron ingot, and the iron ingot will be considered a quote-unquote alloy, even if it isn't truly an alloy. It's just sort of like a term that I'm using for it to make it a little bit more simple. Whatever the case, there's also a more traditional alloy. So first off, I'm going to take some iron here, and we'll drag one at a time into the furnace here. You can see it's currently using the professional term, I guess you could say, but in the future that'll be fixed or changed. I guess it's not really a huge issue right now. You can see it says properly when you pick up things now. That was a small bug that I fixed from last time, but that makes an iron ingot, right? So for the record, these iron ingots currently do not inherit any of the stats. They're kind of like blank slates, but that's one of the things I've been working on. So a while ago in another showcase, I also mentioned all the new stats stuff for ore and herbs and all that stuff. So all of these alloys have their own stat lines that multiply against their ingredient stat lines, meaning if you get higher quality ingredients, you get higher quality alloys. But the important thing to note is that they'll still be better than their component parts, if that makes sense. So there is a point to upgrading your alloys, if that's the easiest way I can put it probably. Whatever the case, To give you guys a quick example, for instance, if I drop 2 iron in here and 1 coal, it'll produce a steel ingot. So this also doesn't have a stat line of its own. However, it's worth noting that this is probably the cleanest example. So an iron ingot is 3 iron, and a steel ingot is 2 iron and 1 coal. Naturally speaking, since the coal is worth less than the iron, you'd think, well, the iron ingot's going to be better, but that's obviously not the case. Steel is always better than iron. It's an upgraded version of iron, and that's represented by steel, or in the future, it will be represented by steel having a better stat line than iron will, if that makes sense. We can also make something here. I'm going to spoil you guys real quick by putting 2 iron in here and a coal, make another steel ingot, and I'll show you guys something called blue steel. So I know that that sounds probably pretty funny, considering what it used to be in Zoolander, I think, but if I make this real quick, you can see I pick up a blue steel, and then this is in my inventory. It's currently using a very similar icon to regular steel. I'll look into fixing that in the future, but for right now, I just wanted to demonstrate that you can, in fact, use alloys in the recipe for an alloy, meaning that's actually something I spent a lot of time on. I spent a couple hours working out an entire tree of these different alloys, and I'm not going to spoil them. I'm not going to tell you guys what all of these different alloys are, meaning that when you guys play, you'll have to figure out them for yourselves. And ideally, in the future, we'll add a couple more in the outer reaches that are a little bit more diverse, but it's a cool kind of balancing tool because if, say, water is really popular in the meta, we could perhaps make a strong anti-water metal or something like that, or an alloy, and that boosts people so that they're able to defend against the water meta in a way that doesn't require me directly nerfing the spells. And then once that's finished, once water is no longer in the meta, people will naturally move away from that alloy, but it's still extra content, right? And this is also a way for people to kind of have a specialty, right? A blacksmith could specialize in blue steel. Maybe people don't understand what that recipe is, despite me showing that one right now. And they don't understand that you can literally just make it that easily, right? I'm gonna go ahead and make some more stuff while I'm talking, but anyway, they might not understand that that's a recipe, and thus that blacksmith is very unique in what he is, right? He's the only one with that recipe, and thus he's incredibly valuable for that reason. And if people want to spread that OSC, it's whatever, right? I don't have to care about that. It's completely fine if people decide to, and that's the whole idea. For the record, what you just saw there was me putting in an incorrect recipe, purposefully so, because if you put in an incorrect recipe, it will spit out coal. So there is some merit to actually being good at figuring this stuff out. If you can't figure it out, then it will obviously spit out coal. What I made here is bronze. It's 2 iron and 1 copper. I will say ahead of time, nothing you see here is necessarily complete. In other words, nothing you see here is necessarily going to be how it is when it's launched or even in the beta. It's very likely that I'll change some of the stuff, so that's just something worth noting. I wouldn't count on any of this being directly the same. I will show off one more. I didn't mean to drop that, but whatever. I believe it's meteoric iron, which is a classical thing. Okay, so okay, I got it wrong, but we're out of iron, so probably a good place to end it anyway. Whatever the case, I just wanted to show you guys what I've been working on with the furnaces, and even though I can't show you all of the 10 to 15 plus alloys that I've added, I trust that you guys can imagine them, and hopefully when we get into an actual launch, you guys will have a ton of fun exploring those and finding your niche, because each of them will be incredibly unique in their function. You know, one, perhaps like Mithril or something, might be better for melee combat, whereas, or a Calcum might be better for magic, or vice versa. I don't know. Those are just two examples I put off the top of my head, so they don't necessarily mean anything, but you get the idea, right? And I'm super excited for that. It might also be maybe better for potions, or so on and so forth, or maybe for amulets, or blah blah blah. I just wanted to kind of inspire you guys and your own imagination in that regard. Anyway, I think I'm done here, so I'm going to let you guys go back to my past self or future self, whichever, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the showcase. Bye. And as it happens, I'm a bit of a liar, so we aren't going to be continuing this showcase. In fact, we are just going to be ending this showcase. I did not realize when I was filming my clip that it would go on so long, but it was sort of necessary. I wanted to show off as much of furnaces as I could, and the revamped, alloy system and all that stuff, but unfortunately it's supposed to be somewhat secretive in the game, so it's just not really possible to show off everything that I wanted to, or otherwise would be able to. So again, just kind of an unfortunate consequence of the situation. However, next showcase should be pretty interesting. So we have a ton of stuff coming in. I have the rigger working on the animation for the player base, and then after that will come close. That's probably not going to be next showcase, but what will be next showcase is a ton of new items that I've had spreaded, and also about half of the delivery we already had with the tile sets, the new tile sets. I had some of them redone or touched up just because I wanted them to look a little bit more varied, and that should all be next showcase. So all of that stuff, really nice stuff, and I want to show it off as soon as possible. So I figured I would just relegate this one mostly to some code related stuff with quote colors and furnaces and alloys, and the next time we can have a bath and some new art and so on and so forth, get ourselves cleansed. And either way, I think that it works a little bit better this way, so the one video will have quite a few views and then the other will have a little bit less. So whatever the case, I really hope you guys enjoyed. I love making these showcases. I apologize if they're a little bit dry recently. I've just been trying to chug out some stuff I've been putting off for a little while. So whatever the case, I hope you have a good day.